The views and opinions expressed by the host and our guests do not state or reflect those of the T and MZ show. Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing this evening? This is MZ, and I'm back again this week with a special guest. But I wanted to tell you I came up with a new exciting name for my show. We're going to call it Heart-to-Heart with MZ. So next time you hear that name, make sure you tune in. And we're going to have some pretty interesting topics. Tonight we have a guest. Her name is Star Williams, and we're going to talk about the subject of addiction tonight. We know many families have to go through that, or they don't have to, but family members get themselves tied up with drugs, opioids, heroin, all types of different drugs that tie their lives up and also sometimes destroy their families. Our guest tonight is a survivor of that. She went through a hard time for many years and has managed to overcome it, and she can enlighten us on a lot of things that maybe we don't know to look for. And if you're going through that with a family member, there may be areas that she may be able to help you deal with the situation, as well as tell you some areas, some places to go to get help. Because it's not just a fly-by-night issue. It is actually a chemical thing that ties itself into your body, and sometimes you can't control it. So everybody, this is Star. Hello, Star.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So tell us a little bit about your background and what happened with you.
Well, I will first and foremost thank you for the opportunity to speak with you, and thanks for having me here.
You're so welcome.
I'm honored to be here, and I'm gracious to be able to share a part of my life with the world, and hopefully and prayerfully it will touch lives and save lives and help someone. I started with drugs. To talk about substance abuse, today it is killing people in massive numbers. It is leading our youth to suicide. It is leading our youth to fighting, killing, murdering, as well as people just out there on the street. We have homeless people. I live in the downtown area of Dallas. We have homeless people that are downtown on the streets by choice because they want to get high. They want to do their drugs as opposed to living in a house. A
normal life.
Yes. We also have a community of functional addicts, which is what I was at the time. I've been clean now for over 20 years.
So since you were functional, I'm sure the audience would like to know, what was your drug of choice?
I chose everything.
But what allowed you to be able to function? Because a lot of times, myself, as I spoke to you before, I used heroin. I didn't use it for a whole lot of years, but I did use it. But it didn't it knocked me out.
Well, I started. To be honest with you, I started using drugs in the 9th grade, smoking weed, and sharing my story and my testimony one day at church. I realized that it started sooner than that, because growing up in a household in the 60s and 70s, and I would say probably early 60s with my parents, and being a little girl, they would say, go to the refrigerator and get me a beer. They would be having their cocktail parties and whatsoever, and I would take a puff off that cigarette and
swallow some beer.
And beer wasn't my thing. I didn't want, but that cigarette was enticing to me.
Okay.
So, but my go back to your question. My choice was marijuana, and it led to other things. So, to skip over some things, the choice ended up being crack cocaine. I did heroin. I did syrup. I did pills.
Yeah, I did all that too. Yeah.
So I did the whole gamut of drugs. But crack is the thing that killed Sylvia, which is my given name, and just took me out to not be functional. I would say, I can't tell you, I don't even remember how many years, but I can tell you the last 4 years that I did it, it was that was the thing that took me out of my business, took me out of everything. So much so that I gave up my business in order to just take a job somewhere else. I knew that I could go get a job in a spa. So at that point, it was like, you know what? I don't have to worry about a job. I'll find one.
So when you say functional, that could mean that we're dealing with people every day in our lives that could be on some type of drug, and we not know it.
Correct.
So functional meant you could.
Functional means that I could greet my clients. I'm in the beauty business. I did manicures and pedicures, and at the time, I had a daughter in college. I had a daughter in private school.
They never knew.
They never knew.
Wow.
And I would do my clients, and all day long I would work. And at 8 o'clock, that child had to be in the bed, and the party had to start.
I don't know how. I've never smoked crack before. So, I mean, you smoke it, right? You put it in a pipe, you light it up, and so you would do this in the morning?
No, I would do it in the evenings. I would do it. I was a 8 o'clock partier. My party starts at 8.
So it makes you up. It's like cocaine. It's like cocaine.
It's an upper, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And so how far did it take you? I mean, how far did you, because I asked you the question when I first talked to you, because I'd always heard or read that anytime you smoke crack, it's the first time and you're hooked. Would you say that's true?
I would say yes, it is. I mean, for some people, I can't speak for everyone, because I have some people that tried it and they were like, oh no, I'll never do that again. So I think it depends on your brain and how you operate and what the pleasure of your syndrome is in your body. So I think that yes, for some people, yes. For others, it's like they try it one time and hey, that's done. It. I'll never do that again. So
what type of euphoria did it give you, or what kind of state? Where did it put you?
It puts you.
And why do you think it's so appealing to so many people? I don't know if it's that popular now, but it probably is.
I think meth has taken the place of crack now, but I think what was so in the beginning, it was before it got on the street and came on the street already rocked up. It was, you did it yourself, so you knew what you were doing. And I think that's why I was so functional so long, is because we could buy it, test it, cook it up ourselves, and it was a lab. I could be a scientist, but you could do that, so it was a safe way. But then when the system, I'll call it that, put it out on the street already cooked, that's when hell broke out and everything, the hit the fan.
In what sense?
And in the sense that you had to have it. It was,
so they put something more addictive in it.
It was something that was added to it that was more addictive to you, as opposed to what we were used to when we cooked it up ourselves.
So when you first started taking it, it was not addictive.
Yeah, it was addictive. Yeah,
but not as
it
harshly.
Wasn't as I think the whole behavior, for me, the whole behavior changed with smoking crack as opposed to smoking cocaine. Some people call it crack cocaine. I never called it crack cocaine, because I know that when it became crack, it was totally different. I don't think cocaine was ever in it.
Right.
But whatever it was, it was something that you sought after.
It made you, your body craved it.
Yeah, your mind craved it.
Yeah, because I know when I was doing heroin and I tried to stop, it was, if I was around people that were smoking it and I smelled it, my body just, it makes you want it. So you have to really have a strong constitution to not follow that.
Right.
And so how were you able to manage that once you decided to stop?
When I decided to stop, I got clean at 45. So I had a long span of using drugs.
So you started at 9.
I would say that was tampering with.
Yes.
Okay. I would say I actually started at 24, 25.
Wow.
Okay. But I say that to say that when doing other things, doing other drugs, and then doing crack, it was like, okay, God got rid of the marijuana, he got rid of the alcohol, he got rid of the syrup, he got rid of the pills, he got rid of everything, and that crack was still there.
That was
it. So from what made me change my mind was being tired. I have 2 beautiful daughters, and God blessed me to keep them safe. He had blessed me to keep them educated, and especially my younger child. I being a Christian and a child of God, I wanted her to be in an environment that she was close to Jesus. But
that didn't happen till later.
That happened. No, she's from a child.
And you raised her that way, but you still were doing crack? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. But that was important to me, that my children were connected with God, especially the baby girl, because the oldest one was in college.
Okay.
So having her be able to go to school, go to chapel, me pick her up from school and have time with her. And like I said, the bell rang at 8 o'clock. You got to eat. You got to have your things ready. You got to be ready, because at 8 o'clock the party starts.
Right.
So what made me stop was just being tired and knowing that I couldn't go any further in my life. And I would, every birthday for my youngest one, I would say, this is the year I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna quit.
Did you ever at any time tell your family?
No,
they never knew.
They did in the end. Those last 3 years.
So did you end up just quitting cold turkey, or did you get help?
I went to rehab. I did.
How many times did you go to rehab? Just once?
One.
That's really good.
One time, 14 days, and
that was
21 years later, I'm still clean and sober.
Wow! Congratulations. So, that's yeah.
To God be the glory. I have to give God all the credit, and I do give myself the credit for being tired and wanting to change.
Right.
And I tell families all the time, I led a ministry at my church for over 12 years. And it was a support group that we had to help families that were affected by addiction.
Right.
But I tell people all the time, when you are ready to change your life and you really cry out to God or whoever you need to cry out to, but when you are ready, that's when life changes.
Yeah.
It does not change.
So if you were, you did help some people at church and you counseled people on how to deal with it. So what were some of the signs that you would tell them that they needed to look for in their children to know that something wasn't right?
Looking at your children, and first of all, what is your relationship with your children? If you have a close relationship with your children, you know your children, and you can kind of spot things when they're changing or they're transitioning from who they are to where they're going, and if that's drugs. But looking at their behavior, are they the happy, cheerful child that they were all along? Are they showing any signs of not eating, being grouchy, not wanting to talk?
Moody.
Not doing well in the classroom. Who are they hanging out with? All of these things are what a parent needs to look at about their children and talk with them.
Do you think that certain types of children or certain types of behavior groups are more prone to get involved with drugs, like those that maybe come from broken families, molestation, or those that are just weak in the mind, or those that are just trying to cover over their life? Do you think those, or do people get into it like we had talked about, just for fun, and then it ends up turning into?
It could be just for fun. It could be hanging out with the wrong crowd. Divorce leads to a lot of children suffering, and I don't think people realize what divorce do to children. But divorce is one of the number one reasons that children are unhappy. They can't cope, they can't deal, and they look for some way to escape. Also, if you have the parent in the family or in the home that is drinking or smoking or smoking weed, and they just kind of loosely lay it around.
Right.
You have inquisitive children that are going to say, I wonder, what this is about.
Right.
Well, mom's doing it. It's okay for me to do it. And so you have environmental, where you have children that are in the community where drugs are being talked about, drugs are being used, handlebars, Xanax, which is what they call
right.
it. These kids, talk about bars. So you have this child that may not be the type, but he's inquisitive. Mm-hmm. So let me try. Right. And he may make the biggest mistake of his life by trying, because however his brain and his mind is set, he can gravitate to liking that so much that he can't stop it.
Right.
And the whole thing about addiction is the fact of something that you cannot break. You cannot control. You cannot stop doing it. And so you have children that start drinking. I've spoken to kids that start drinking at 4 years old.
Wow.
Because their parents had a bar there.
Right.
They went to sleep. They were knocked out, or they, was partying. And the kid went over and turned it up and got to build a tolerance for it.
I always believe that, people, you read all the time about addiction, and people say that, you start out first with drinking, then you try drugs, then you do marijuana, and then you go on, you graduate to higher levels of, I guess, trying to cope or whatever it is that you're doing with the drugs. Mm-hmm. I never believed that could happen for somebody that had a strong constitution and that finally found a different avenue to mask over their pain or whatever it is they're going through. What are your thoughts on that?
It can start with something as simple as a joint and not be enough. It could start with drinking and not be enough, and wanting to find something to self-medicate. A lot of people that have gone through abuse and abusive relationships, molestation,
right.
Learned behavior from the family. Those are some of the triggers that lead those children or the individuals to using drugs.
Yeah. I don't even have to speak on it, but the way the world is now, you see so many children that are lost on the streets. And most of the time they are hooked on some type of drug. I don't know what the favorite is of choice now, but it seems to get gradually worse, each year. And many of them lose their lives, like you mentioned at the beginning. But in knowing what we know, what could we do to circumvent some of that for some of the, I don't think the schools have those types of programs in them to help kids that are on their way, that are just starting out and trying this and trying that. They just say don't do drugs, but of course that's not enough.
They don't know. That's the hard part. The hard part is the choice and choosing to make a change in your life. I've worked with Promise House, with not Promise House, Phoenix House.
I've heard of that.
And I've gone over and I've spoke with the children, and I've given them a chance to talk back to me. And a lot of times they're there because mom brought me.
Not because they wanted to come.
No, they didn't want to come, and they don't have any ambition
to do it
of being clean. They're there because they have time to be there, and then they can go back home, they can go back to their games, they can go back to their drugs, they can go back. I wouldn't dare say that there's a percentage of children that come out of that successfully, because there are kids that want to get clean. There are some kids that are so uncomfortable with being around bad people, places, and things that's a refuge for them.
Wow.
So it's huge. It's huge in the community of young children. It's huge. I'm in my 60s, and it's huge in the senior community. You have,
but they're not so much crack as they are like prescription drugs. Am I right?
Prescription drugs is the
opioids,
number one.
Yeah,
opioids is number one. You have so many seniors that are hooked on hydrocodone.
Wow.
So much to, I've witnessed that they, so much so that they know that they're overdosing and they still take the pills. So it's from the cradle to the grave, and everything in between.
We were talking about the pharmaceutical companies earlier today because they are just making a killing on our health, and they don't really care. So they put those things out there, even like, they put them out there to help you supposedly, and then you end up getting hooked on them. So it's so easy to do. I remember I just had surgery on my hip. So one of the drugs they gave me was Oxycontin. And so they were like, make sure you only take this for 7 days. After 7 days, you have to get out. I was like, I took it for 3 days. I said, I don't want to, I don't want to take any chances. Because for one thing, when I took it, I didn't feel any different. I think that I probably didn't take enough. But I know that there's that's a high one. People want that pill. So it's a high. And again, it's just an escape for people to get away from the pain or whatever they're going through.
And the thing about pain that a lot of people don't realize is that there are classes that you can take where you can go for pain management. Okay. And it teaches you how to breathe through the pain. It teaches you how to stretch, how to get up in the morning and do stretches throughout the day. When you feel pain, you take a deep breath, and so there's ways to manage pain that you don't have to use a pill.
Right.
And then there's natural ways as well. I've always said that for myself, I've been really blessed with good health, but I had COVID in August, and after having COVID, I found out that I'm diabetic. I have high blood pressure.
But COVID gave you that. You didn't have it before, right?
I was borderline. I didn't have it, but I was fighting it. But after COVID, all of my numbers changed.
You got high blood pressure, diabetes, and what else?
All of it. High blood pressure, what do you call? Cholesterol is off. Everything in my system, potassium is off. So I have had to make a conscious decision. Do I want to be on pharmaceuticals, or do I want to change my lifestyle? So
What'd you do?
Well, I've chosen to change my lifestyle. I've chosen to take herbs. I've chosen to quit eating meat. I've chosen to exercise every day, to drink water, to take deep breaths, to do whatever I have to do to not take that pharmaceutical.
Right.
And so
I have to applaud you because you've come through a rough time, and you obviously have the mind and the strength within yourself to pull out of situations and make a better life for yourself. A lot of people can't do that. So your blessings, you've been blessed, as well as also having the nerve to meet the challenge and come above. So I just wanted to commend you for that, because I know how it is coming off of them.
Thank you.
It's not easy. It is not easy to do.
It was not easy. It's, God started using me in rehab. I went to rehab, and my daughter had told me, either, and this was at a point where I was at the rock bottom. I had used her car, and I will never forget this story because it saved my life. But I had used her car, and she said, "Come and get me, take the kids to school, and pick me up." I went and got her. I went to the bank, got money, started getting high, and past time to pick them up. So I'm stuck. I'm in the streets. I got on my cute, sexy pajamas, my little silk pajamas before pajamas was cool, and I'm out there, getting high. And I couldn't go get them. So I didn't call. I didn't do anything. First time in my life I never did that in my life.
Wow.
And so here I am, just getting high. And it came to a point where it's coming midnight, and my daughter had called. I think I had a cell phone. I did. And she's like, "Bring me my car or I'm calling the police." And I couldn't take her car.
Did she know you were out getting high?
I don't think she knew.
Okay.
But I called my best friend, which would always come bail me out. And when I say bail me out, I would be just tired, frustrated, high, I just needed someone to talk to. I just needed a hug. I would call my friend Vicky. I just need a hug. She would come and hug me.
Right.
And so I called her and I said, "I need you to come and take Monique's car to her." And she was like, "I'm not doing it." and that's the first time she told me no. And I took one more drug run. I almost got hit in an accident by a truck on the highway, missed us like this far. So from that, long story short, I ended up taking her car to the street that I lived on, and I parked it for her to go and get her car.
Wow.
And I stayed out. That changed my whole mind, my whole life, because I had never included my children in what I did. Never had I done that. And I knew at that point, if I did it that time and I was comfortable with it, it would be a cycle.
Yeah.
And so that's when I said, okay, enough already. And
so you never got to the point where you were stealing things from home or taking things because you kept a job?
No. I didn't do that. I robbed the piggy bank once.
Okay.
I robbed a piggy bank. That's the worst it got for me. But
the thing about that drug of choice is, like you said, you can function with it. Some of them you can't, like heroin, like what are some of the other ones that you can't function with? It just completely
I
you out.
I could speak for myself.
Syrup, you can't. You drink cough syrup, and that puts you out.
And would get up and go to work. And,
wow.
I will never forget doing a lady's nails one day and was high on syrup and had polished her whole knuckle. I woke up and I'm like, oh my gosh, that doesn't look too good. Right. But at that time I will never forget it, because my mom was sick and my grandmother was sick, so I had an excuse, and I told my manager, I said, I didn't sleep well last night, and I really just messed up my client's nails, so I really need to go home. But it creeped into my work. It creeped into my work, and I found myself at a place where the story I just shared with you with my children and myself, that was when my daughter said to me, either go get some help or I don't want to see you again.
Wow, that's your turning point.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So I had
draw the sign.
I left. I stayed out there a week. I went into, I will never forget, I went to Welcome House. Okay. Welcome House is a place over in Dallas? East Dallas, on Peak Street, on Peak, right off of Gaston. And I went over there and I stayed a night. And it's right in the hood where I lived. Okay. So I'm thinking, here I am, and I'm down in the basement, and I'm listening to these people talk about heroin and talking about crack and and I'm here to get well, Right. What are we doing here?
Were they talking about getting some, or just their experiences?
Yeah, talking about, we call them war stories.
Okay.
So they're telling war stories.
Right.
But what wasn't the war story that bothered me? It was the candle that was lit on the banister.
Why the candle?
Someone had a candle lit, and I'm thinking.
But why did it bother you?
Because I'm in a room with a bunch of addicts.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, and then there are guys on the top that some of them have been in prison, some of them. So for me, I was like, okay, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
So, I couldn't leave. I wasn't, just Billy Badass where I could just walk out of the place. So I'm like, okay, in the morning, I'm getting out of here. So I left there. That was my first try and my first attempt. But that week I left and hung out with a couple of girls.
So you didn't stay the night?
No, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't leave in the middle of the night.
Okay.
But I left and I went back out, and the following week I found somewhere to go, and I went to a place called Green Villa in Greenville, Texas. And I had, it was a long way from Dallas.
Right.
One of our family friends took me there. And I will never forget my niece's words. She said, she told me, she said, it's hard, but it's possible.
Yeah.
And
so did they give you like other drugs to overcome it, or just mostly counseling and that type of stuff?
When I got there, they said, ma'am, we don't have a bed. And we don't have a bed for you. And I had no insurance. And so I said, let me say something to you, ma'am. I said, whoever you just talked to, you tell them you got a damn fool sitting on your couch that's not leaving. It took me 20 years to get here, and I'm not leaving. So I don't know what they have to do, but someone's going to pay for this. Tonight. Someone's going to keep me because I'm not leaving. And I went to sleep. And she woke me up and said, Star, you have a room. There's your room. You can go to your room. We're going to just let you rest today.
Right.
And that was the beginning of healing for me.
Okay.
And I can tell you that I wanted it, and I wanted God back in my life.
Right.
Because that's where I came from.
So what can you, after all your experience, what do you think that you can do, or how can you contribute to help other people that are going through this with family members or even themselves? What advice would you give?
The advice I give is to the family is to love the person that is hurting, that is an addict, but love yourself enough to not become codependent or an enabler. And that's how the family gets caught up in the addict, is because they either don't know how to love themselves enough that they pour all their love into the addict. So they become sick. They become addicted to the addict.
By helping them.
Yeah, by enabling them.
By giving them money, letting them stay, forgiving them for this and allowing that, and continuing to bend and bend and bend.
Yeah.
And that only makes the addict worse because they've got someone to...
Well, they know that now the manipulation starts, because once you show the addict that you're willing to love them through it, they're willing to play every game that they can play to get what they need from you. So the manipulation and the lies and, all of that is a part of what happens with them.
Yeah. We're going to take a short break and come back and finish out with a Star. Thank you so much. And again, this is Heart to Heart with MZ. We're back. We're back today again with Star, and we were talking about addiction. And the purpose of the show was to be able to open people's eyes up to the possibilities of being able to overcome the drug addiction in your life. She's a survivor. I too am a survivor. I think the thing that stands foremost in my mind, and maybe hers too, is that you have to look forward. Like she had children, I had children. And when you look forward in your life to what the future of your children are going to be, and you see where you are now, and you see that that's not any place you want them to see you at, that helps you pull forward. There's a lot of programs out there available for families, for drug addicted ones. People want to reach out and help, but the addict has to want the help. They have to want to get over what they're going through. And so Star's going to end the show off by telling us some of the avenues that she used and some avenues that are available for those out there that are looking for help for drug addiction.
If you are looking for help, or most of the time, I think I said yesterday, there may be a couple of functioning addicts listening in that may, I hope and pray that this conversation will prick your spirit and make you move upward. I pray that something that we have said will motivate you to intentionally seek help. And if that is what you choose, there's so many places out here. Centacor is a long-term facility out in Fort Worth.
Okay.
And it is for men and women.
Is it just walk in, or you have to be prescribed by a doctor, or?
Well, you have to call.
Okay.
I think that there are some places that are dual diagnosis, and what that means that if you have bipolar disorder or some of those other things, some places when you call you have to ask, if it's a dual health facility.
Okay.
But Centocor is one. Welcome House, as I mentioned earlier, is still in service.
And where's that located?
Welcome House is on Gaston and Peak.
Okay.
In East Dallas.
Okay.
Centocor is in Fort Worth, and you can call Centocor as well. There are a lot of people that are out on the streets that are homeless and want to get off drugs, have nowhere to go. But there's a place called Housing Crisis Center, and they help, they want to prevent homelessness in Dallas. So there are places that you can go for.
Is that place downtown?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's downtown Dallas. There's a 24-hour hotline, and the number is 214-941-1991. Again, 214-941-1991. And that's a crisis hotline that is available 24 hours.
Okay.
And there's the Greater Dallas chapter of drugs and alcohol that you can always call as well. And there's a plethora of information and resources for them to reach out to.
Right.
For the family member, there's Al-Anon, and also for the Functioning-addict, there's AA, which is a 12-step.
Tell me again, or tell the audience again why it's important for the family to go to Al-Anon.
It's important for the family to understand themselves and to understand.
That's weird that you say that, because I would think that you would say they should understand the addict, but you're not. You're saying they should understand themselves. Why is that?
Because when you understand where you are as a loved one of an addict, you can actually help that addict, because you will not be subjected to being a crutch or enabler or codependent, for them.
Okay.
That's why it's important. There are groups that you can attend, that you can sit down and talk with other husbands and wives, other parents.
Right, they're going through the same thing. Exactly.
That are going through the same thing. There are a lot of churches, there are a lot of faith-based out there too. So
a lot of support.
Yeah, a lot of support. Okay. And we all have a smartphone.
Absolutely.
We all have a computer.
Yeah.
And if you really need and want the resources, they're there. They're at our hands. They're at our fingertips.
Okay.
But that's just a few that I can share right now. And that's what
it.
We have.
Well, I tell you, I wanted to thank you again. Audience, you can't see Star. You would never know that Star has been through what she's been through. She's a beautiful Black woman, all together, all polished up, and just looks very, very lovely. And you would never know that she's been through what she's been through. So it is possible, if you're out there and you're needing help and you want to come out, you can do it. So don't give up. Keep trying. Look up some of those places that she's mentioned if you're actually actively wanting to do it. And we thank you for tuning in tonight. And again, it's Marzetta with the Heart and Art Show. Thank you. I tried. I gotta give you